All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. Um, there are very few of us left who are out here doing videos, and every so often I will try to promote something that's new and that kind of keeps to that heritage of great music I was reared on back in the day, and especially during the 1980s when I think the melodic rock scene was at its peak into the early 90s. And of course, we all know what happened during the 90s. Recently, I spoke to a record label CEO who's been doing this since the mid 1990s, likely as a response to the loss of melodic content, melodic quality, as melody just kind of disappeared. And there were a few record labels that popped up to answer the call and to recruit artists and to try to market and sell those artists to the public. As we all know, radio here in the United States, and I guess around the world for the most part, I know there are some isolated exceptions to this rule, but radio in general has no interest in music that adheres to that quality we all got used to and then just went away for really the last 30 years about. And it's really tragic because you have to really dig to find this material, whether you're a West Coast music fan, you're a straight up AOR fan, or you like glam rock or metal, or just melodic hard rock. All of it is fairly difficult to find unless you know where to look for it. This particular record label, which I'm not going to mention by name because I'm not sure this gentleman wants me to talk about him or his record label, but I can tell you that his dedication to it, the fact that he puts out quality material and he recruits really great musicians to play on these albums, his dedication to that craft has been fairly relentless, especially say the last 10 to 15 years. He has just released some fantastic music on this particular label, and almost none of it ever really breaks out. I mean, I'm sure he has a certain gauge as to what is successful. You know, if they can sell 5,000 copies of something, that might be a success. Where years ago you used to talk about gold records and platinum records. Now, if you can push out 5,000 units, it's probably a big victory. I know it costs thousands of dollars to do the entire record, for the studio time, to pay the musicians. Sometimes these musicians want in advance. They always used to get one in the old days. I'm not sure if they get them anymore. I think it's probably contingent upon if the album actually sells enough units for them to get paid, which is really sad. Now, you know, he attributes some of this to oversaturation by certain other record labels who are involved in this. I don't know if that's true or not. I do think that a lot of music gets released and some of it sticks and some of it doesn't. And I think it probably would be more beneficial if those labels just hyped fewer artists and tried to sell bigger names or better quality, put it that way. Because a lot of times on this particular label, there isn't a big name necessarily attached to it. Although if you drill down, you'll find out that pretty much everybody on these projects has been involved for melodic, with melodic rock for many, many years. And some of them are really still at the top of their game. And again, the quality of material, the guitar work, the singing, the playing, it's all top notch, but nobody cares. And he said to me at one point, he said, the scene is dead and there's really nothing we can do about it. In addition to the record label issue, you've also got the radio station issue. Radio today is corporate controlled. It's corporate run. They'll interview sometimes people who have new records out put them on their glorious morning shows, and then, maybe they'll play the song once and that'll be it. They got their promotional ratings there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but that music won't be on the radio station. It is really weird. Back in the day, if we had an opportunity to interview somebody, we'd be playing their music. And it just went along with the territory. Now there's so much focus testing. Everything is so esoteric. And none of these radio stations that play rock music are interested in the melodic rock format at all. If one or two artists, whether it's Greta Van Fleet, and I wouldn't necessarily consider them a melodic rock band. They're almost a progressive hard rock band with some melodic tendencies. I know Ghost broke through a few years ago, which was bizarre, but that was more about image than the music. I think the music didn't represent the image, and I guess it's a way to sneak that music onto the radio for 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever. And then there's my favorite band that's currently out in the mainstream, kind of, and that's Dirty Honey. Of course, if you like the Black Crowes and Aerosmith and you're hoping for a revival of that kind of music, it might start with that band, but that's one band. And the station itself relies on all of the dark matter that has been on the radio, the same bands, really for the last 30 years, with very few exceptions. AC/DC comes out with an album, they cater to that for a few weeks, and then it vanishes, it's gone. And there are very few names, very few brands out there that can muster even a little break in the horrible playlists that are out there. So I really feel for this guy, and we had a long conversation about this because I feel frustrated as well. And it's one of the reasons I don't talk quite as much about new music, because what happens is I'll put a video out and it'll have, a couple hundred views on it. I'll be like, wow, people just don't care. They don't want to know about this. They want the gossip. They want the intrigue, which I understand. It's more interesting. It's more interesting to talk about. But we didn't really prepare for the future here. What we did was we just had our music that we love, right? And then it went away, and then nobody really complained about that. And because of technology and the fact that these record labels, they don't get any money. They don't generate any money. These artists don't generate money. And if you put it on Spotify or YouTube, it just streams and it's for pennies. I mean, you have to get like 1 billion streams or whatever to make even a legitimate amount of money off of it. It's just really pathetic. That's why these pop stars that are out there that are getting billions of views, they're not really complaining that much because they're getting so many that, yeah, they're actually probably making thousands of dollars off of that. But you got an upstart band and you say, oh, this is a good way to get it out there, right? So technology is good because I can just bypass a record label, upload it, and then wait and see if anybody discovers it. Well, nothing beats terrestrial radio still. When you get in your car and you've got, by the way, you also need a DJ to front sell your product or back sell your product, and you're not hearing that anymore at all. I mean, the whole idea now being a DJ is to talk about, public service announcements, or, tomorrow there's going to be a festival and you should bring your family to that festival, blah, blah, blah. Well, what was that last song you just played? The music is window dressing. It's just window dressing. These morning shows where they just blab, and they've been doing this for like 30 plus years. The morning show format, I think, really helped destroy the music industry to some degree, because music became secondary. It wasn't what people were listening for. They were listening for some shock jock type Howard Stern guy or gal who would say something outrageous and then play one song in a 20 or 30 minute period and then a whole slew of commercials. right? And people would tune in because they'd want to know, what was going to happen next. So they took the rock music industry and turned it into, a morning soap opera or an afternoon soap opera, because you have the afternoon drive time people, but that's usually a little quicker and not as bogged down as the morning show. It's like those morning shows, they go on for hours and hours and hours. And you're like, okay, when are you guys going to start playing music? 10 a.m. Well, everybody's at work by then. Well, you can listen at work and you'll get, 5 songs in a row, commercial free. Whoop-de-doo. Whoop-de-doo. At that point, I'm a little busy now, depending on what I do. And even if I can listen at work, it's not the same as you're driving in, right? In the old days, you could hear a new song driving in and go, huh? And then you'd find out who did that song. You might even call the radio station, right? I mean, if you call a radio station now, you're going to get somebody who probably doesn't even know what's going on when it comes to on-air content. So it's just all disconnected. So radio is hopeless. Radio is all pre-programmed. Radio is all driven by maybe 3 or 4 corporations that run the show. And they're all interconnected. You can go from city to city and find radio stations that represent that particular format. They're all playing the same stuff. They all have the same playlists. They all sound boring. They're so predictable. And there's no room for anything new in the melodic rock world. What's cool is this CEO sent me a brand new album by a group that he's had on his label before, and really quality singing, upbeat stuff. Would be perfect if it were 1991 and we weren't about to go down the rabbit hole to disaster. And this album dropped and I was still music director at a radio station, right? I would say, okay, this is going into heavy rotation because this works well with everything that we play. And it's good for, people that like legacy music, but it's also great for people that are tired of hearing the same songs over and over again. And it's well put together. The guitar work is excellent. The vocals are top notch. And eventually I'll be sharing that music when it gets released because I want people to know about it. But I think the gist of the conversation with the way the world is going right now just seemed to hit me a little bit harder than maybe these other conversations I've had with other musicians and with other people who work at record labels, because this is the guy who's at the top. Oftentimes he spends his own money and he loses money on these artists because he's not selling enough product, and he has to limit the amount of CDs that he presses because nobody's buying CDs. And yeah, the digital download is the thing now, and that's so personal, right? Yeah, I know you can load the insert, load the album cover, and if you do like CD making, you could probably make your own CD out of it. Really exciting. Or you can just transfer those files into a file device, which then you plug into your car and then you play it that way. It's so personal, right? It's just so, and I'm not saying that that's not convenient. I'm just saying it really helps lose the impact of the physical product, because that was such a thing. Whether you go back to 8-tracks, cassettes, vinyl, and then the CD, which became less personal, but at least it was something. And now, you've got, hey, I just downloaded this. I'm going to listen to it now. Okay, cool. I used to stare at album covers. I used to just stare at them. I mean, while the record was playing. So, you get to a particular song and who's playing on that song. You can just look it up. Plus you had lyrics. Typically the inner sleeve had all the lyrics. So if you want to learn the words of a song and not sound like an idiot when you tried to sing the song in the car, I mean, those were all things we used to do. And now all those things are gone. And the industry itself, they can't even coax anybody to play any of this music. I mean, independent stations, maybe there are a couple out there. Class X Radio, I remember, from Ohio. Good station. They had another format called Escape. and it was a lot of new stuff that was coming out. But who's hearing that? I mean, I don't even think that's terrestrial. I think that was just an internet stream. And yeah, you can find internet streams of this stuff, but it's not the same as cruising down the road and being able to hear the new song with the DJ telling you who it is and where you can get it and when it's going to come out and who's on the record. You know, there are no intelligent folks doing radio broadcasting, very few. And the old timers who are still doing it, they're just like game show hosts now. They're not really, you know, these well-informed. I'm sure they still have all that knowledge, but they never impart that knowledge anymore. It's all, you know, corporate advertising and community calendar and all these little sort of vignettes about some movie that just came out and, you know, box office receipts for, I mean, who goes to the movies these days? Apparently there are a couple of people who go, but I mean, is that more important? Even if you're going to back sell an old artist, talk about the old artist, what kind of impact they had on the world, and if they're still around, and maybe they're going to be in concert somewhere. You know, I know they do that. They do the concert thing here and there. Sometimes they do it and they insert it in ways which, you know, like they've always played, like they're advertising that Iron Maiden is coming, right? And they've never played Iron Maiden. It's just bizarre. It's like, yeah, Iron Maiden, a band that we've never played before on our station, is coming to the Comcast Center tomorrow night. Okay, why would I go see Iron Maiden? You guys don't play them. I mean, I might like them, but why don't you guys play them? It's just like advertising for something that, you know, you don't actually, you don't have those products in your inventory, but yet you're going to advertise for this particular item because, you know, people might like it. Despite what we do here, people might actually want to go see this. So all that to say that we're in the book of Lamentations when it comes to the melodic rock world. We are smack dab in the middle, and it appears to be coming to an abrupt end. If these labels decide to stop doing what they do, I mean, I'm sure there'll be independent bands and so forth that try to put out their own material, but it's becoming less and less impactful as time goes on. And it's such a, you know, lost leader to put out music. It's just, okay, we'll put out the music, we'll hype it. I mean, look at that new Journey song that's out there, right? Is anybody downloading that? Is that, I know it's a few 100,000 views on YouTube or whatever, but is that making the band lots of money? Probably not. I mean, and it speaks to like Stevie Nicks when she says, yeah, why should we do a new album? I think Fleetwood Mac would sell a few copies just because, I don't know. I just think they would break that mold to some degree, but her logic isn't really wrong. It's just, you know, that you've got this talent. You would think, hey, for the hardcore fans, do it for the hardcore fans. But the hardcore fans, they're not even buying this stuff. They're streaming it. And so the artists don't make any money. So until they change the law, which, you know, they should have years ago. I mean, Napster is over. You know what I mean? I mean, we went through that now. Artists deserve to earn some revenue. If you're going to be using their material and you're going to be playing it, they should get more than a couple of pennies. You know, you've got this subscription service where you're selling, you know, $9.95 a month, $14.95 a month. And all these people are signing up because they're like, ooh, this is great because I can just get unlimited amounts of music. In the old days, you'd buy one album and it would cost you $9.99 or $14.99. So yeah, is it better for the consumer? Absolutely. Is it good for the artist? No. And so the consumer is suffering with lousy product, at least the stuff moving forward, because nobody's going to be creative if they can't earn a living. So those are just some basic thoughts on this. And I'm hoping this record label doesn't stop what they're doing, but I have a feeling that it might be, you know, might be time's up for a lot of these record labels that have been doing this for many years. Some will soldier on. My advice to everybody would be to be more selective with their product. and work on production value, and have somebody who works A&R and just tries and says, hey, I know you're playing the same song by Disturbed and you're playing it over and over again, but we think we've got a song that might liven up your playlist a little bit. You know, you've got to start breaking through or it's over. And Gene Simmons will be right, and that'll be the end of it. I'm not giving up. I mean, I'll still do my year-end top 10 favorite melodic rock albums of 2021. I'm still going to do that feature. I wasn't sure if I was going to. I'll try to be better than I was last year because I wasn't as enthusiastic about it last year. But I've got some really good selections that I've already thought about. And then we'll see if anybody cares. They probably won't, but you have to soldier on. You have to continue. Otherwise, you know, you just give up and there's no scene. And I don't know, maybe I'll be the only guy in this lane. And so people will look to me. They'll say, hey, what about this album? And I'll say, okay, I'm on it. I'm listening to it, you know, but then again, people would rather hear about the drama in, you know, a rock band that's like 60 years old or 50. I don't know about 60, but you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm pretty much done with this video. Long-winded. It's just sad. It's really sad. The industry is just going away, and there's not much anybody can do about it.